So let me hide this and make sure that we have the sound issues covered because they will let us know. I'm going to ask Vic to let us know about the sound. Vic, I don't know if you're watching. If you are, if you would let us know. Paul, can go ahead and say something and see if everybody can hear you. Let me make sure we're live.
Hello. Eating a meat stick, drinking a beer.
Covered because they will let us know. All right, let me mute this. We are. You are, if you would let us know. All right, so how's the sound for everybody? Can everybody, Vince, say something? Can everybody hear Vince? Let us know, Vic, if the sound's okay.
Hello. How's it going today? Very excited.
Paul, go ahead and say.
Hello.
Okay, last week we had some sound problems, so if somebody would let me know if everybody can hear everybody fine, we'll go ahead and get started. But we've got Sebastian and Stephanie and Vic and Jason so far. Is the sound okay, guys?
On this side of it.
Yeah, we can hear each other fine. Last week I just have to hit a button on this new mic to see if we get the sound right. So nobody's chimed in to see if the sound is okay. I'm going to turn my volume down on my phone. Okay, Jason says he can hear all three. Paul and Vince are a little low compared to me, so let me hit the button and see if this is what it was, if this is what fixed it last week. Okay, so Paul, go ahead and tell us, say something real quick, and we'll see if this fixed.
Hello, my name is Prater. I'm sitting in the dark because it's hot outside. How about that?
All right, so is that better or worse? Vic says that he could hear fine, so I wonder if I hit the wrong button. Let's see. I got to remind people, I had somebody last week send me a message that said total amateur, and I got to remind them that I'm just some asshole with a basement and a camera. Oh, that's worse. Go back. Stephanie says that's worse. So okay. Now I hit the button again. So I think we're back to where we should be. But I got to remind everybody, I am just some asshole with a camera in a basement. This is not high end. I just get to do this because I have such amazing friends that want to hang out on a Sunday afternoon and drink with me. So thanks guys for coming back. This week is our two of my dear friends, Paul Prater and Vince Wilson. Paul and I've known each other. I was trying to remember. I think you guys came out to Colorado after the 4th of July. It would have been 5 years ago because I turned 45 in a couple weeks, and it was right after my 40th birthday when I was on the Grand Canyon. So you guys came out that week. But we knew each other for a couple of years before. I think we met at a Mindvention, one of the conventions, and we talked Shutterbug, one of your effects that you put out through the company that shall remain nameless. And then Vince, I met you a couple of years ago at East Coast Spirit Sessions, and you did your H.H. Holmes. That's when I first saw your H.H. Holmes seance. So Paul is a professional attorney. He is a practicing attorney, also a magician, also a beer drinker, and so Paul, give us a little bit of a story about how you got to here from there, and tell everybody about your awesome shirt.
Yeah. So the shirt, I'll start there since you brought that up. I was at East Coast Spirit Sessions this past year, and if anybody's watching and has not been to that, you need to go. It's a whole lot of fun. Even if you're not into magic, you get to see a bunch of weird, creepy shit and hang out at the beach in January. Anyway.
Yeah, and my buddy Bill Gurman, you guys both know my buddy Bill. He came, and he's not a magician, but he came and he loved it. He had a blast.
Yeah, every girlfriend I've brought has enjoyed it too, and they're not magicians. So anyway, yeah, I was there at East Coast Spirit Session, and some weirdo on the beach gave me this shirt. So it was awesome, and that's why I'm on the show. He's actually the host. Paul produced his Drink Whiskey and Hail Satan, and I thought, what better day to wear the shirt than today? But the background, anyway, I did magic when I was a kid. I was absolutely just transfixed by it. But I never tried to perform like you see the little video clips of people on TV when they're 8 years old doing magic shows. I didn't do any of that. I just really liked it. Did it with my friends, and then found football and girls and college and career, and really got out of it. And it was not until I was in my 30s that I got back into magic again. Was a trial attorney, but I'd spent a lot of time doing trials. And after about 5 years, I became the managing partner of a firm, and I was no longer doing trials. I used to play in bands. I used to do theater. Now band's gone, theater's gone, trial work's gone. I needed an outlet for performance, and that's what really pulled me back into it. Not so much this desire to jump back into magic, but I needed an outlet for performance. When my daughter was born, I had Mark Wilson's Encyclopedia of Magic still from when I was a kid.
Yep.
I pulled that thing out and started looking at it, and that was it.
It's funny how much I still go back to the Modern Course in Magic, Mark Wilson's Modern Course in Magic, the big one. I still go back to that book often for things.
Yeah, it's right behind me on that shelf.
Yeah.
So yeah, I still got that book from when I was a kid, and so that was really my entrance into it. And as far as you said, how did we get to where I am now? Well, on this show particularly, yes, we met at my invention, but it was over beer. I remember you came up and said, "Hey, you like beer? I've got some really good beer," and I was like, I found my people.
Yeah, right.
Listen and beer.
Yeah. Heavy metal, magic, and ghosts and beer. Right. Those are my people. So Vince, I think the first time we met was actually because I think you were really sick and you needed some medicine. You needed somebody to run to the run the convenience store and get you some sinus meds or something, right?
Oh man, yeah. So we met technically before that.
Yeah.
That weekend, and yeah. Apparently, before I came to my very first East Coast Spirit session, I picked up the flu virus somewhere, and I don't know where at, but it went full force when I got there. I actually performed a spirit cabinet escape routine on stage with which was supposed to be a full 30 minutes long, and ended up being about 10 minutes long because I couldn't stay up there much longer than that. But yeah, he really helped me out. I needed some kind of medication from the convenience store. He ran out and got it for me. I really appreciated that. A sign of true friendship because I was in no condition. That really helped out. And I, of course, had a 7-hour drive back home after that.
So I'm hearing that both of your volumes are a little low. I'm going to turn up as far as I can. If you guys, it's not as bad as if it was as bad as last week, I'd have more than one person complaining. So if you could maybe speak up just a tad, we'll see. But I think it's better than last week. So Vince, you did the H.H. Holmes. I think my first time I saw you perform, you did your H.H. Holmes seance. And I want to get into kind of the seance and that kind of stuff eventually. But what got you into magic? I know in the background you are you told me this earlier. You are a
consulting hypnotist.
A consulting hypnotist, which is the title for a therapeutic hypnotist, correct?
That is correct. Yes. So it's I'm certified in the National Guild of Hypnotists, and I help people quit smoking and lose weight, and among other things. But I also use it in stage performances and seances as well. But I really got started because of growing up in the late 70s and early 80s. I remember shows like In Search of with Leonard Nimoy and those late night documentaries that would come up on Friday and Saturday nights at 10 or 11 p.m. When I wasn't supposed to be staying up and watching them, but I did anyway, on Ghosts and Bigfoot and the Loch Ness Monster and Amelia Earhart. Mysteries, and they of course, it's a documentary, so it's real, right? So I grew up believing the Amityville Horror was a real thing because it was Mr. Spock told me it was on In Search of.
Right.
So
have you seen the new? They're doing that now. They're doing it again. And Zachary Quinto, who plays Spock in the new Star Trek movies, is the host.
That's right. Yeah, I watched the first season of that. I think it's missing a little something, but I'm going to have to watch this.
It's missing Leonard Nimoy, and it's missing
That's correct. But the format's a little different too. I kind of like the format when he had the reenactments.
Yeah.
And things along those lines. So that's definitely another thing that I think might help the show out a little bit. But yeah, that those sorts of influences kind of motivated me. Of course, what kid's not into magic at some point, and that also stuck with me for a long time. I grew up at the end of Doug Henning and the beginning of David Copperfield. My favorite boyhood magician was Harry Blackstone Jr., who did this amazing, his father pioneered it with amazing dancing handkerchief stage routine, which made me really believe that magic must be real. That just kind of stuck with me forever. So I got into the spooky stuff, the paranormal, and magic stuff with me as well. I was doing shows in Baltimore in my 20s and doing ghost hunts and paranormal investigations as well.
So if you guys have any questions, go ahead and comment in the Facebook, and I'll get to the questions. So let's talk a little bit about the ghost tours. You guys both run. Now, Paul, your ghost tours are seasonal, correct? They're not all, or are they all year?
Well, they're seasonal unless somebody wants to book me for a private tour.
Okay.
And I'm only one person, but I'll do private tours, group tours,
Okay.
year round. But yeah, it's just like right now, as I'm sitting in my house, it's 93 degrees outside with like 80% humidity. Nobody wants to do a ghost tour in that kind of weather.
So tell us, but so you do it in you're in Little Rock, Arkansas, and you do your tours. They're called, correct me if I'm wrong, the Argenta Ghost Tours.
Haunted Argenta Ghost Tours.
And what is Argenta? Tell us what Argenta is, and tell us a little bit about the.
Sure. So Argenta is the old downtown of. I'm actually in North Little Rock. I know that sounds like not a big deal, but to Central Arkansans it is. It's a different town. The river divides Little Rock and North Little Rock. So Argenta is the old downtown North Little Rock on the other side of the river from Little Rock. It geographically sits lower, so it was not a great place to settle. And through most of its early history, it was only settled because of the railroads. And, if you know much about history, the railroads in the 1800s didn't bring nice, happy family men. It was, drinking, gambling, whoring, and murder. So there's lots of stories to mine from old downtown North Little Rock, the Argenta area. And that was the original name of North Little Rock, was Argenta, before it was North Little Rock.
So what are some of the? Tell us some of the ghosts. Tell us some of the
Sure.
What and this. So yeah, so tell us some of the ghosts and some of the stories that you've put into the ghost tour.
I'll tell you the one that I think is the most interesting and most well documented story in Argenta. There's a building there that's now a bar called Four Quarter that is my favorite bar by far. I spent probably too much time and money, and I went on my just total aside. Google, I have a Google phone and it tracks everywhere you go. And my second most visited place besides my home was Four Quarter Bar. So that gives you an idea of how frequently I'm there.
I get in my car. My car has it recognizes when I'm at places for a while. And I was at the grocery store the other day, and I turn on my car, and it tells me how far it is till I get to Tower 56 Distillery. And I'm like...
Your second home.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, Four Quarter Bar, I'll just tell the story as it's been reported over and over. It's in print, it's in newspapers. So the story is that building started as a dirt floor brothel called Miss Birdie's, and that the most beautiful of all of the prostitutes worked at Miss Birdie's, and the most beautiful one of all was named Anastasia, and she was only 13 years old.
Oh.
Times were different back then. There was a man who reportedly his name was Maxwell. No one's really for sure. It's kind of lost to history, but Maxwell would sit at the bar next door to Miss Birdie's. He would walk by and hope to catch a glimpse of Anastasia, and give her a little wave, and she always ignored him. One day he was sitting at that bar, and he got really drunk, and two men came in and they were bragging about their time with Anastasia. And so these two men kept talking until Maxwell became infuriated, and he ran next door to Miss Birdie's. He ran up a set of steps to a landing and found Anastasia and said, "Leave this place, please. Just, I'll take care of you. Be my wife. You don't have to do this anymore." She looked at him in the eye and said, "Get out. I don't love you, and you're interfering with my business." At that point, he pulled out a knife and cut her throat, threw her body off the landing, and ran out through the front windows of the building. And since that time, people have claimed to have seen Anastasia's ghost both on that landing at the top of the stairs or on the stairs themselves. Now, the interesting thing about this story and what I love, and this gives you some idea of how I structure my ghost tours, I say that I've heard this story over and over, but as I started to think about it, parts of it didn't make sense because the story continues on. I'll give you the continuation of the story. It's said that a few years later, Maxwell went back into Miss Birdie's. He got in an argument with two other men, and they pulled out a knife and cut his throat, killing him in the same manner that he killed her. And that was the first story of maybe Anastasia's ghost was there and sought revenge. And then the next person to come in was an undertaker who had a place down in the basement. And when he died, there were body parts in jars and the like, and they had to do all that out. And then the next place after that was a newspaper stand, which was really covered for a speakeasy during the time of Prohibition. So I heard all of these stories and I read them all, and the first thing I thought, just thinking logically, this is the lawyer side coming out, like, how can you have a basement and a dirt floor? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Right.
So I'm friends with the owner, and I asked him, there's no basement. There was also a story that when they had that mortuary down there, that they moved bodies under a tunnel diagonally across the street to a funeral home. But that funeral home had its own mortuary in the basement, so why would they accept bodies from elsewhere? And I asked the city, because I've worked with the city on putting this together. They said, no, there's a sewer tunnel, but there is no tunnel for moving bodies. And then Miss Birdie's, there was no specific time attached to this. They couldn't find the name of Maxwell. Also, it was supposed to be a speakeasy. I went back, and the man who built the building, to locals this makes sense, his name's George Donaghy. He's our 23rd governor, and he was a staunch prohibitionist. We have a town not far from here that has 3 colleges, and the whole town's dry, and it's because of Donaghy who lived there. So the whole story of Anastasia falls apart. But here's the craziest thing about it. There are a lot of very, very, very unexplainable and unusual things that have happened there that I have experienced, and I'm a hardcore skeptic, readily admitted. I say I'm an open-minded skeptic, but I'm very skeptical.
I've talked about that every week on this, is that I consider myself a James Randi skeptic. The door is not closed. I just need to see it. And I'm never going to discount anybody's story. Well, I shouldn't say anybody's. Some people I'm calling bullshit on. But especially when anyway, well, that's another show. But I'm open for I'm not, the door's not closed. I'm not going to discount other people's stories. I just can't say that it happened because I didn't see it. So I'm right there with you. So I'm with you. I'm a hardcore. I call it a James Randi skeptic because I'm not willing to give $1 million for proof, but I'd like to see proof before I believe.
So here's one of the first things that I got. I was talking to the owner about the tours before I ever did them. You know, as I say, it was my favorite bar, so I was there anyway. And he shared a video with me that is totally unexplainable that looks like an orb. And I don't mean something just lazily floating. This thing is darting and moving. I have a video of it that I share with people on the tour. I showed it to a video guy I know who does video production. He said he has no clue. So that's the first thing. Another deal, one of the employees was there before the bar was actually open, and he was replacing a water heater, and he was in the back and heard this crash. And he went out, and they have an old copper pot still that, you know, compared to my body, it's about this big. It's not huge, but it's not small. This thing flew off the back of the bar and fell into the ice vents at the front edge of the bar. So it didn't just fall, it flew forward. And they went back and pulled the security video, and we have that, and I share that on the tours as well. And then when I was there personally, the very first time I did Booze and Brews, which is doing some seance work, we do some of it in Fort Quarter, there was a lady who was on the 3rd stair where people said they see Anastasia coming down, and we all saw it, my whole group. It looked like somebody shoved her. She hit the floor and had to be taken out on a stretcher by EMS.
So I just got another message that it's hard to hear you. So if you could, I don't know if you could speak up, but I think we're good. It's got to be better than last week, and I may move my monitor closer and see if I can pick you up on this if it doesn't get any better. So Vince,
I'm sitting about 8 inches from my phone right now.
Okay. So
hopefully that'll.
Yeah. So Vince, you do ghost tours as well, and one of the differences, and this is why I wanted to have you both on at the same time, because Paul's dealing with a pretty local, you know, special history that anybody outside of his circle, his geographical area, it doesn't really know. So that gives Paul some liberties with the creativity, and it gives Paul some liberties with the tour. Where you do a tour, I mean, you are the owner, operator, manager, director. You give me the title of the Pose Theater at the Lord Baltimore Hotel in Baltimore, Maryland. You deal a lot with Edgar Allan Poe. You do a Edgar Allan Poe ghost tour. Now, Edgar Allan Poe, I mean, not everybody knows everything about Edgar Allan Poe, obviously, because there's still a lot of mystery surrounding his death and some of the bits of his life. But you're dealing with a pretty well-known figure. It'd be like doing a seance of Elvis. You know, I mean, there's so many people know about Elvis that you're attracting the audience you're attracting is you're attracting some people because they like ghosts. You're attracting some people because they're in town and they want to do this tour. But you're also attracting some people that are Poe people. So I imagine there's some times that you have Poe experts coming to you and saying you got this wrong, you got this wrong. So how did you get involved in doing? I mean, other than geographic, I mean, how did you tell us a little bit about your Poe ghost tours, your ghost tours, and then kind of how it turned into the theater at the historic Lord Baltimore Hotel?
Well, first of all, we're going to have the Rhinestone Elvis seance now at the Stanley Hotel. Me and you coming up. And by the way, if you are visiting Arkansas and you do anything nefarious, please wear a thick necklace, a turtleneck, or a brace or something like that, because there's a lot of throat slitting there apparently, from what I've gathered from Paul's story. So yes, I do the ghost tours and ghost hunts at the Lord Baltimore as well. The ghost tours, of course, mainly focused on Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite. We walk from the LBH, the Lord Baltimore Hotel, which is always on the top 10 list of most haunted places, haunted hotels in the United States, right next to Stanley and Queen Mary, who we both know, someone who's been both.
Aiden Sinclair was on the show a couple weeks ago, and a dear friend of all of ours.
That's right. And so the Edgar Allan Poe has a lot of mystery surrounding his death, as you know, and his life as well. And we cover all that on the tour. A lot of people think they know Poe. And if you were to ask people in the chat right now, I know there's a delay because of how Zoom works, but if you were to ask them in there at this moment, how did Edgar Allan Poe die? Or was he an alcoholic, a drug addict, and maybe a womanizing cad too? There would be a lot of different answers to that. So you'd say, what do you know about Edgar Allan Poe? Did you know he was a drunk? Did you know he did drugs? Did you know that he had a reputation with women, that he died under mysterious circumstances? And one of those things is true, and the others are not. All right.
And it was slander. It was slander journalism, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
He had a literary enemy who had this amazing, super villain name. It's like you would hear, if someone introduced yourself, if someone introduced themselves to you with this name, your immediate thoughts probably would be, this guy's up to no good. And his name was Rufus Griswold, which sounds like a character on Harry Potter more than anything else. And Rufus hated Poe. He believed that Poe had written some sort of bad review for him. That it was never proven. It probably was him, but it's still never been proven that it actually was Poe. Poe was a little oblivious to this. He thought it was more like a jivey sort of thing. But yeah, Rufus, actually, that's what I'm going to call him from now on, that I've said it out loud. Rufus really believed that, that Poe had written this and hated Poe for the rest of Poe's life. Poe passed away under mysterious circumstances in Baltimore in 1849 at the age of 40 years old. He was only 40 when he died. And he tricked Poe's aunt, who inherited all of Poe's collected works, into signing those works over to him, which he republished, gave her none of the profits, even though he promised that he would, and wrote a scathing biography at the beginning of each collected works, in which he created this mythology of Poe being an alcoholic, a drug addict, and a womanizer. He may have done a little womanizing, maybe, but that's once again unverified. So there's probably a little bit of that. He was gambling early in his life, and he drank occasionally. But remember, by those days' standards, alcoholism wasn't what we consider it today.
Well, and it's kind of a sliding scale, right? I mean, it's still,
right. Yeah.
Right, Paul. It's up for interpretation.
I like that. That means we're safe.
Well, I don't go to meetings, so it's
Yeah, you guys are. When it comes to drinking, you guys are vintage.
right.
You know.
So there are a couple things I want to ask you about Poe real quick before I want to interrupt you with this. So a couple of things. I want the for years, and I don't know. I mean, I think it was more than 10 years. Somebody on Poe's death day would leave a rose on his grave, correct? And that stopped a couple of years ago.
Possibly over 40 years.
Okay, and that stopped what, like 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
I think it was 2007. Actually.
Oh, okay, so 13 years ago. Okay.
Stopped, yeah. So it's been a while. So it the exact date is kind of hard to verify, but at some point in the 1950s or 60s, actually, could have been even longer than that. Some mysterious stranger who became known as the Poe Poster later on would visit Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite on the anniversary of his birthday in January every year. In fact, it's usually the weekend that East Coast Spirit Sessions falls in, much to my chagrin.
So that's why it stopped. That's why you stopped doing it, is because you had to start going to East Coast Spirit Sessions.
That's right. That's what. The rumors of me being a Poe Toaster are not true. Of course, that's what the Poe Toaster would say, right? But yeah. So he would leave 3 long stem roses and a half a bottle of cognac at the gravesite. The gravesite at the front, at the corner of Green and Fayette Street. Poe was originally buried in the back of Westminster Burying Grounds. He originally had a small marker and some, I guess the equivalent of the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts at the time, raised money to use of Baltimore to create a better monument for him, collecting their pennies. And then he was moved to a more prominent location up front. He was reinterred and moved up there. And much like H.A. Holmes, who was mentioned earlier, he was buried under concrete and cement in order to prevent him from being, dug up for souvenir hunters. So yes, Edgar Allan Poe did not survive. There have been some conspiracy rumors that he survived his death and faked it, or they caught the wrong person. He used the opportunity to live a life. But no, he's definitely buried under there. They kind of saw that it looked just like him, even though he was several decades buried at that point when he reinterred him. But yeah, the circumstances are very unusual. There's several theories about the nature of his death, but we'll probably never know.
So I've got 2 questions. One is from me, and then the other's from one of the viewers, Bill Barkley, our friend Bill. But the question for me, I just want to get this in because I just saw that my buddy Calvin Von Crush just joined us. He's watching from the Occult Collector on Amazon Prime. Calvin is also on the board of directors for the Talking Board Historical Society. Now, Baltimore is the home of the Ouija board, correct? I know the Talking Board the Talking Board's Historical Society did a big fundraiser recently in the last half dozen years or so, and built the tombstone and rededicated a tombstone to the founder, the creator of the Ouija board. I attended an event 2 years ago and performed for their group down in Denver when they found the woman who actually named it, who's buried in a cemetery down in Denver. So tell us a little bit while Calvin's on, and Calvin, I'm counting on you. If Vince is full of shit, call him out. You're in trouble, Vince. So tell us.
Bond, who's buried at Greenmount Cemetery, is one of the creators of the Ouija board and founders of the Baltimore Talking Board Company in Baltimore City. The board was invented in the late 1800s in Baltimore, and is based on talking boards, which varied in size and construction over the past decades, hundreds of years, or whatnot, depending on who you're listening to and who wrote about it. But they could be anywhere from anything from a parchment to a piece of wood with letters engraved on it to brass and steel, and also even room-sized marble constructions where the planchette is a mobile table that rolls around on casters and wheels or sliders across the floor. So there's a lot of variations on it. But what makes the Ouija board so popular was the mythology associated around it, the name, that strange name, which has unusual stories about how it was created as well. I mean, the truth is, it's not the French and German words for yes, yes. It is actually supposedly came up during a seance. All right. So is he correcting me yet?
No, Calvin. I think this is This is the story. You're right. You're right. And that's one of the fun things about the Ouija board is, and Calvin and I talked about this several weeks ago on the show, is that there's several stories from accredited people. I mean, people that were there that tell different stories. So Vince, do you do Ouija board stuff in your tours? Do you do Ouija board stuff in your seances? Do you?
Oh yes, when I can. Some people, of course, I don't advertise it, so I do ask if you wouldn't mind if I do this. And I did a live stream. There was a Ouija board challenge a few years ago. Not actually years ago. This is last year. What am I saying? By a magician and mentalist said, go to the gravesite, break the rules. And I took him up on the challenge. And I went to Edgar Allan Poe's gravesite and brought a Ouija board table with me and did a seance. And the rules, of course, are never do alone. I kind of was not alone. There was people there, but they weren't helping me at the board. Never do it in the graveyard. Of course, is exactly where I was, and always say goodbye, which I didn't do.
Oh.
All right, so I broke every rule in order to do this, and I hate to break it to everyone. Although some people said they felt something at the Ouija table, and I let other people try it out. Nothing happened. Edgar Allan Poe did not show up, and the portal to hell did not open beneath it and suck us all down. The Ouija board mythology about being a portal. It's funny, and I'm sure both of you experienced this. You guys have used Ouija boards and seances and performances before, right? So here's the thing. Have you ever noticed that people will use pendulums and pendulum boards? They'll use other spirit communication. They'll use voice recorders, but they're terrified to use a Ouija board. All right? So, because somehow that's different. Somehow that is a different thing for whatever reason. I would argue that EVP, the electronic voice phenomenon, the process in which paranormal investigators record the voices of ghosts, is more, if you believe in spirit communication, then the EVP is more dangerous than a Ouija board, because Ouija boards have rules. And when people do EVP, what do they always say when they start? Is anyone there?
Yeah.
Which is against the seance rules of always saying a specific name.
Yeah.
Never open up with everyone. Is everyone there?
Right.
Is anyone there? So but yeah, it's interesting how people have these contradictory opinions of things. Popular culture made the Ouija board a satanic device, not reality.
Right, absolutely. When I usually get to I usually start off the show with announcements and stuff that's coming, but I'll get to that. But I want to plug something real quick, and it ties into your Ouija board deal. I made a deal earlier in the year with the Black Monarch Hotel in Victor, Colorado. It's one of the most haunted towns in Colorado. It's an old mining town. The Black Monarch is a hotel that has taken over a building that used to be on the main floor was a casino and the upper floor was a brothel. Well, Adam Zimmerelli, who's the owner of the hotel, and I have become fast friends, and we're going to do mystery collection weekends there. I went up to visit him a month or so ago, and he's in the process of remodeling. Well, he was pulling up some floorboards in the main dining room, which was upstairs, and he was getting ready to fix them. Well, I took those floorboards, and I sent them to a master woodworker, and he is in the process of making me a Ouija board box, a box with a Ouija board on top that is made from the wood of the grand ballroom dining room at the historic Black Monarch Hotel. Adam's going to be on the show on Sunday, June 26th, and I'm going to show him the board. He hasn't seen it since I took the wood, and so I'm going to show. I'll have it by then, and I'm going to show it. So I'll get to the rest of the plugs later, but I wanted to talk about. I'm really excited because I think that I've talked about the whole idea of the mystery collection is the idea that the objects carry the story of the people that were there and the people that owned it, and I'm really excited to see what this Ouija board box tells us when I get to start doing the Black Monarch weekends, the mystery collection at the Black Monarch weekends, and see what this Ouija board does. I'm really excited. I'm even more excited to take this board from the the Ouija from the Black Monarch out into the world and take a little bit of the Black Monarch and the stories that were part of that hotel and that brothel and that casino that go back to the late 1800s in some of the most, some of the most turbulent Colorado mining, stories with me to other cities. So Bill, our friend Bill Barkley from New York City has a question for both of you. And Paul, I'll start with you on it, and then Vince, you can chime in. Have either you incorporated as a business, and do you carry insurance for liability issues? Have you either had any accidents or mishaps on your tours, and how do you handle that? Now I also want to get into, I think Bill's talking, I don't want to say real issues, people falling down, that kind of stuff. But I also want to talk about people that take your tour. They either are believers or they're not believers. And so some people take it because they want to see a ghost. Our dear friend James Corbin runs one of the finest ghost tours in the country in New Orleans. And I talk to him about this often, that he will get people that are there to see a ghost. And if they don't see a ghost, it is a bust, because they're firmly sure that there's a ghost here. And I'm sure you guys have dealt with the same thing. So Paul, if you'll start with that, talk about what Bill's talking about with the insurance and some mishaps, and then I want to take it a little bit further with some of the lack of a better term, horror stories of ghost tours.
Sure. So I will start with, answering that question. No, I am not an LLC. I did not form as an LLC in the past, but I will be, because I'm expanding to 5 cities. Now, whether that's going to happen this year or not is, who knows, because of COVID, obviously. But I will form an LLC after that. The LLC, not to get too much into lawyer talk, but that'll protect me personally. That insulates me personally from suits. I've not had anyone injure themselves on a tour, and the main reason I'm concerned about it is it happens on public streets. So who are they going to sue? They're not going to sue me. I mean, they can, but I can probably put that on a motion to dismiss, and being an attorney, I don't have legal fees incurred if they decide they want to sue me. But once I expand to multiple cities, I'll do the LLC for the purpose of protection. I do have a business license with the city. I know who I am. There's no way to really hide anyway. So I do report it. I pay it on taxes, all that kind of stuff. But I just don't have the insurance or anything like that. And the second question you asked, I have lots of people. I would say you're probably about right. It's about half the people on the tour believe that there are ghosts and they're here to see them. And I encourage them to take all the pictures they can, and when they find some, share them with me, and I put them up on the website. So I use it as a marketing opportunity.
Absolutely. I was in. Oh, go ahead.
Hopefully, I was going to say too, hopefully you guys can hear better. I'm like right in front of my phone.
I haven't had anybody complain, and I'd hear about it. So I went on a ghost tour, and I think I've shared this story with both of you. My family, and I mentioned earlier, Bill Gurman, his family, and we went up to South Dakota last year, and I was so excited. We all got to pick one thing that we wanted to do, and I wanted to go to a ghost tour at the Bullock Hotel in Deadwood, South Dakota. I figured it's the oldest hotel. It is going to be amazing, and I got to tell you, it was. I won't. Maybe this is for another show. It was the absolute worst experience I've ever done in my entire life. It was a complete waste of. There was 10 of us in our group. Bill's family and my family. There was 10 of us, and it was so disappointing. The tour guide would say things like, "Well, this building was built. I don't remember the year, but it was a while ago. It was a long time ago." And the guy's name who funded it, oh God, what was his name? I don't remember. And I'm sitting there going, I tell my kid, I look at my kid and I'm like, buddy, we could have made this shit up in 10 minutes and been better than this. We spent the first 10 minutes of the tour watching the old Unsolved Mysteries with Robert Stack on VHS, on the audio video cart. Remember when you were a kid and they bring in the audio video cart? We watched that. That was the first 10 minutes of the tour. The next 10 minutes was the guide passing around her phone with a picture of a ghost. So I've seen amazing ghost tours in New Orleans at the Stanley Hotel on the Queen Mary. I know what you guys do is amazing. I've also seen the bad part. So Vince, you've had I imagine the same. So to answer Bill's question, did you have insurance and liability is covered?
LLC, but we have a waiver that you have to sign in order to buy tickets. You automatically sign that waiver.
I'm gonna move. I'm gonna interrupt you for a second. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna move my monitor just a bit closer and see if I can pick you guys up. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but keep talking.
Sure. Yep. So I have a waiver that is an electronic waiver that they had to click on in order to finish their ticketing on Eventbrite and also the Fair Harbor site where I used to. But it's always been there, and it's very extensive. And I'm sure Paul can tell you that waivers are good, but not flawless. But no matter how you word them, they can still try to sue you. But it's in there, and I remind them before every tour. And I also tell them about the fact that if they trip and fall, be extra careful because once again, it's on the city of Baltimore because we're walking through the city, so it's not on me. I mean, you got to watch your step, just like Paul said. And when I actually get to the grave site, I put emphasis on this. I said, before we enter, remember the waiver you signed. And also remember this, Westminster Burying Grounds is actually run by the University of Maryland Law School. So people have gone in there and tripped over grave sites and banged their toes and gotten hurt. And they have tried to file litigation against the Westminster Burying Grounds for their injuries. Can you guess how many cases have successfully went through and they've gotten money out of it from litigation against the University of Maryland Law School?
Yeah, right.
So I mentioned that to it, and we've never ever had an accident or had someone trip over themselves. In the hotel, I have insurance through EventSeed. I think they actually changed their name to Thimble recently, and it allows me. It gives me full coverage up to $1 million.
Yeah.
So if anyone injures themselves before.
I did some corporate events for the first time this past holiday season, and they required me to have performer liability insurance. So I dealt with my insurance company, and I'm sure this is absolutely terrible, boring to everybody but the three of us. And but they required a limit of personal liability. So I called my insurance guy and I said, "Is this will my personal liability cover it?" And they said, "Are you being paid to do it?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "No, it won't. You have to have a corporate." So I had to form an LLC this year to cover that insurance and just to kind of separate but I do have now, I have a liability insurance, which also covers my equipment. And I travel with now I travel with cameras, but I also travel with some high-end equipment that is expensive to replace, as I'm sure you guys do as well.
Yeah.
So
Dimple's great because you can get insurance by the hour with it. So you can pay $10 and get $1 million insurance for an hour.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, so that's great for that. I'm great I signed up for that because right now I in the middle of the pandemic I would be paying for nothing.
Right.
Since I'm not out.
Right. Well, that's right. I'm still paying my insurance premium every month for my performer's insurance, and I haven't done a show since mid-February. So on that, I want real quick a plug, and then Paul, I want to talk about what we had planned earlier this year when I said we haven't done a show. I mentioned earlier on Facebook on my friend Zeke's post that every time I refilled my pitcher today, or my drink today, was going to be in honor of Zeke Powers, our friend Zeke Powers. Zeke visited me and brought these nice coasters. So every time we take a drink today, it's in honor of our friend Zeke Powers. Paul, I know you're drinking some fun beers. The earlier one was it peanut butter, caramel, chocolate, vanilla? Listen to this. You're going to love this one.
Double chocolate peanut caramel nougat imperial cream stout. That's a whole lot of words. I know it's probably hard to read because of the reflection.
Yeah. Oh, but it's kind of got a Danzig-ish picture on it, huh?
Yeah, that's their logo. The pompadour skull with the motorcycle jacket. That's one of our local breweries.
Well, I think I'm going to need to come just to get the shirt.
Well, yeah, they've got the shirts, and you've got a place to stay, of course, and Uber's really cheap to get there and back, so it's a lot of fun. But now I'm on to Modern Times Restless Nights, which is a bourbon barrel-aged coffee porter with bourbon barrel-aged beans.
Nice.
So like a little caffeine.
Yeah, nice. Nice. Modern Times is one of my favorites. They're out of San Diego, I believe. I think they're Southern California for sure.
Well, this is, yeah, that is, but the beer is made by Boulevard.
Oh, Boulevard. I thought you said Modern Times. Okay, no, that's the name. Is it the both of them?
Modern Times Beer and Coffee. Yeah, I think that Modern Times might be the coffee maker.
Okay,
I don't know.
okay. So Boulevard, Boulevard makes one of my absolute favorite beers in Tank 7. It's one of my absolute favorite beers. It is always. They did a collaboration recently with WeldWorks here in town, and I know, Paul, you've been to WeldWorks with me a couple of times, and they called it Tank 11. And I got the last keg of it, and I've got it on tap at my little system here. And I ran into the new to the head brewer, one of the brewers, the other day at here in town, and he said that Boulevard is going to start brewing Tank 11 for national distribution. So you'll have to pick it up. It is good. Boulevard is they're one of my favorites. So on that note, go ahead.
I was gonna say I've been with WeldWorks and Boulevard Brewery.
Yeah,
So.
nice. On that note, Paul and I were going to go on a drinking tour starting in March. Actually, it was going to be a magic. We were going to do shows, but we also mapped it out for breweries. So, Paul, we mentioned earlier, Paul and I have been friends for a while, and I've been working towards a tour for 5 years. When I quit my job 5 years ago, Paul was one of the first people I called, and I said, listen, here's where I want to go with this. Here's what I want, my 2-year plan, my 4-year plan, my 5-year plan. And Paul's been a big help in getting me past a few of these blocks, these to hit these marks. Well, one of them was I wanted a tour. And Paul and I have been talking about it for a couple of years, and finally all the stars lined up and everything worked, and we had a tour planned. We were going to start in New Orleans on April 2nd and 3rd at the Always Cabaret Lounge and Theater. And from there, we had adventures planned all the way to where we were going to end, I think, on the 16th or 17th in Cheyenne, Wyoming. We were going to be gone for 2 weeks. And as you know, every tour in the world got canceled because of this. And it was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking because it hit us in our income. But it was also more heartbreaking because I really feel like I needed this as a performer and as an artist. I needed this next step as kind of validation that I made the right choice 5 years ago. And we had worked really hard on this. We had worked really hard to get from to this point. And the idea is not dead. It is going to happen. It will probably look different, and it'll probably sound different, and it'll be different. But you've toured before, Paul. And so you've performed at several of Vince's venues, right? I mean, you guys have worked together several times before.
We first met in 2009.
Right, and that was at a deal that you did, right, Vince? A deal you did in you haven't always been in Baltimore. You were somewhere else before, right?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Baltimore, performed there for years, but then I got an opportunity in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia.
Right.
And I opened up a place called the Haunted Cottage where I did seances, parlor shows, and ghost tours at. And Paul I remember he puts a post up in the Magic Cafe, the Green Monster, and says, hey, anyone near Baltimore? And I said, well, I'm kind of nearish Baltimore. And he came up.
I think it was DC, but the same difference.
DC, yeah, same difference in length of driving time. And he came up and did a show for 4 people, I think. But we hung out, and I gave him a tour of the house, and we talked shop a little bit, and became friends, and so.
Yeah, that was when I was full-time employed in a day job at that point, so that was a really fun break. I was there for a law conference.
Yeah.
Yeah, clean shaven too.
Yeah, I didn't have a beard.
So the idea of a tour is something that that we were and I'm not going to get too sappy about this, but it was heartbreaking for me. It really was. It was really a punch in the nuts, and it's been a real tough battle the last couple of months for me. And I've shared this with a couple of friends, and now I'm going to talk about it a little bit more. But I really am just a 14-year-old kid that needs approval from strangers. I mean, that's really what I am, and I'm finding out that is a trait amongst a lot of us. And I love stand-up comedy. I'm a connoisseur and a historian of stand-up comedy, and all the biographies I've read of some of the greatest stand-up comedians, that is also why they did it. It was to work out inner demons, and it was to work out their some of their things that they held inside, and had people, to get immediate gratification from them. And you both have seen bits and pieces of my show. My show is 100% interactive. I mean, it is everything I say is for the benefit of the people in front of me. Everything I do is for the benefit of the people in front of me. And what comes next is a result of what comes back, which is one of the problems that I ran into this week in a deal that Vince so graciously offered for me to be part of his 1 year. This weekend is the 1 year anniversary. I really struggled, and I did work really hard earlier in the week on trying to put together a routine that could be done online. And my show, unfortunately, I wish I was better. I wish I was better. But my show and my persona and my style is so much. I need that person in front of me. And one of the things that I'm the most proud of in my performance is my quick wit and my ability to come back and have a witty retort or a good line. And I just was terrified to do that. So the tour was more than just, Paul and I getting out on the road and drinking beer and being with buddies and going and touring the country. It was really kind of a validation. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping, I'm crossing my fingers. I've got some deals in the works for New Orleans in October for Halloween week. So I'm hoping that works. And then maybe in the early spring of 2021, you're going to see Black Magic 2021, our tour back out there. We both worked really hard on it, and we made a really awesome poster for Dallas that has a picture of President. It's the if you haven't seen it, I'll post it one of these days on here. And it was a poster from the old Misfits, because Paul and I are both old punk fans. It was the cover of the Misfits Bullet album. I think the line from the song is "Texas is the reason that the president's dead." And so we're gonna get back out there, and we're gonna it's gonna be awesome. Enough sappy stuff. But that was something that Paul was gracious enough to take me with him and let me be part of this tour, and it was really heartbreaking. So on that note, I've also promised Vince that in the future I am coming to Baltimore. On the topic of Baltimore, our friend Nick Wegner just joined us. So if you guys don't know Nick is a rock star. Nick is and he lives in Baltimore. So there's the other reason I need to come out to Baltimore. So Vince, what is the 1 year anniversary of Poe was this weekend? Tell us a little bit about, you did a benefit show Friday night and Saturday night. I think, Paul, you performed on Friday.
I did, yeah. I was unavailable last night, so I got to sneak in on Friday.
And Friday, you did a benefit show under the Poe's Theater at the Lord Baltimore Hotel, and it was for Doctors Without Borders. Tell us a little bit about how you got this. And you had some big names. You had some of the bigger names in magic on this show.
Yeah. First of all, I just noticed the format on the Facebook page, and I can put my hands up, and I have 2 Paul puppets. Sorry, I couldn't resist that.
So the first person to want to stick your hand up our ass.
I've heard there's lots of stories.
Moon River.
But going back over a year ago, and truth be told, once again, in my second venue I put together, Paul Prater was involved in that. So I had wanted to do a murder mystery magic show, and Paul suggests, hey, send an email out to the tourism board and see if any hotels respond to you. They'll send it out to everyone in the area. And a lot of hotels came back, but almost all of them were, all but one of them were, rent the space, it's yours. And, in that mentality, they don't care about you. You're giving them the money. They're not going to help you promote and advertise. Only one hotel came back and said, let's work together. So, Paul and I were at the hotel for an event that, due to a bad marketing on the behalf of someone who was assisting us on that, it just didn't work out. But Paul still stayed, had a great time, at the hotel at no cost. The hotel gave him a free room for a weekend to make up for it. But we sat there in the meeting, and it was me, Paul, and Lee Johnson Lowe, who's the marketing director at Lord Baltimore Hotel, awesome guy. And I said, hey, I have this idea for this thing as a magic theater where we have the best magicians coming out. Um, and we could do this on weekends or whatever. And he goes, okay. And Paul was right there, and that's mostly how that fell down. Just came together.
Yeah, I was shocked because anytime I've tried to pitch anything to anyone, it's a lot more than okay.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah.
And you have had, the lineup that you've had there. I mean, when you have such legendary names as the Evansons coming and sitting in your audience, right? I mean, that's a pretty heavy deal. I know our friend, and we've mentioned him. I'm going to only mention him one more time because if I mention him again, his head will get even bigger than it already is. Our dear friend Zeke Powers performed there, and he had a great time. He raved about what a performance he had, and the audience and the crowd and the support he had from the hotel and the support he had from you. I think he did his. It was the debut of his Titanic show.
That's right. Yeah, we did the Titanic show together.
Yeah.
I ordered a 20-foot cardboard Titanic backdrop that went across the entire back of the stage in front of us, and we had music like the sounds of waves playing in the background, and we got to go over all the conspiracy theories. Zeke mostly handled conspiracy theories, and I thought, I got to talk to Zeke one of these days because we need to do something like this, what we're doing right now, but with conspiracy theories. Unsolved mysteries. That'd be great.
I saw something posted on Facebook today, and it was the 15 most passed around conspiracy theories that nobody knows about. And I wish I had printed it or saved it, but the number one was in 1986, the Reagan administration killed all birds and replaced them with spies. That was one of them. That was awesome. It was awesome. So where do you see the Poe Theater going? I imagine that this downtime has been tough, not only for the hotel, but for the theater and the performers that you had. I mean, because you also had, while you had people from out of town coming in, you also had some regulars from some local regulars performing as well, correct?
That's right. The Poe's Magic Players, which are local magicians who do just strolling and walk around restaurant magic before shows. And some of them have even gotten a chance to perform on stage at Poe's. We do workshops on a monthly basis. We've been doing weekly Zoom workshops recently with the performers, where we put a lot of emphasis on helping them improve their performance. I like to think that we're where if you're familiar with the International Brotherhood of Magicians and the Society of American Magicians, IBM and SAM, I like to think that Poe's in Baltimore is where that education continues. Where we really help magicians, learn to have better performances, to learn to craft their, stage shows, learn scripting and theatricality and storytelling. I put a lot of emphasis on the story aspect, obviously being a storytelling magician and bizarre magician. Not that some people probably know what the second part is. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
Or mystery artist or mystery performer, if you prefer. The most famous magicians in the world are storytellers. They're not trick to trick to trick to trick. You'll never hear a famous magician say, "And for my next trick, here's what's coming up." So I put obviously I call myself the paranormalist sometimes because the paranormal makes its way into my shows a lot. It's a wonderful topic. It's really engaging, and it's the power of story and myth that goes into these.
So that leads into something that I talked with Chris and Soidan with last week. Is the three of us deal with paranormal, we all deal with ghosts. We tell stories that lean towards spooky, that lean towards the occult. We have people that come to our shows that believe. We have people that come to our shows and are in. We use we use magic. And how do you guys as performers walk that line? Chris and I had talked last week about that Chris is a believer. Chris is also a paranormal researcher and does some stuff with some of the bigger Michigan paranormal clubs. And we talked a lot about how his show is kind of a mix of actual contact and actual paranormal investigation and theater. And I struggled with that a little bit. And we had a great conversation after the fact about that. But so how do you guys deal with the walking that fine line between people that come and want you to contact Grandma Ethel, or want you to contact their son or somebody that's passed on, where you're contacting Edgar Allan Poe as opposed to a deceased relative. How do you, Paul? I'll start with you. How do you, dealing with the occult and dealing with the paranormal and dealing with a very sensitive topic of the afterlife? How do you walk that line?
So my answer is simple. If somebody comes and says, "Hey, can you contact whoever?" and I've had that a lot. I'm sure all of us have.
Mm-hmm.
I just say the only person who can contact that person is you, because they're right here.
That's great.
And you're the only one who can do that. So it's not only putting it off of me, that I can't contact the dead, but also I don't want to send them to somebody else who's going to give them false hope.
Right.
That's what I told them. That person's right here in your heart, and you're the only one who can contact them.
That's great. I've never heard that before. I like that a lot.
That's my simple answer.
Yeah.
And if they push me on the topic of can you do these things, because one thing, I don't market. If you look at my website, it doesn't say magician. Business cards don't say magician. Nothing says magician anywhere on what I do. I don't market that way, but what I tell them is what I do is for entertainment. If they push, I just say I'm an entertainer. What I do is entertainment.
I like that.
I don't want to destroy the idea that maybe I do or don't have powers. I don't feel like that's my job to go, no, I have no powers. It's all bullshit. Well, now you made a person feel stupid. So I just say I'm an entertainer.
Yeah. So Vince, similar?
Yeah, similar. I never claimed to have powers at all. As a matter of fact, I just claim that I have a above average knowledge of the supernatural and paranormal through research and reading. And I will actually dismiss claims that I'm a medium. I tell them I'm actually a double extra large. It's old and stupid joke, I know, but it
never gets old.
It adds a little levity in there, and also hopefully dismisses any claims, although people believe anyway. I remember Penn and Teller, or actually, I'm sorry, Penn specifically. Penn, contrary to popular belief, Teller does do interviews. I remember Penn Jillette saying in an interview that no one leaves his shows thinking that they're real magicians, and if they do, they have mental illness. That is a quote. Look it up. It was a thing that was said. But I disagree with that vehemently. First of all, it's a little insulting. I do like Penn. It's a little insulting, to say the least. But the one thing I want to say to that is that with all the hundreds of people that have seen Penn and Teller shows, thousands, millions even, there's always going to be a percentage of people that believe, regardless of what they say, that it's paranormal. If someone's going to a magic show or an entertainment venue, or even a ghost hunt or ghost tour that you buy tickets to get into, and if they go in there believing that it's real magic or really supernatural or paranormal, that your job is done at that point. I mean, there's nothing. What more can you do to convince them that you're an entertainer than selling tickets to an event? So I don't believe in disclaimers. I think it's silly actually to have to invest any moment of precious time telling people that I'm not really supernatural and paranormal, and none of this is because in reality, who knows? I mean, I've certainly done enough seances where things have happened that I can't explain, and I'm not going to go out of my way to try to say to them, "Oh, that's probably ideomotor response or your
Right.
imagination or some psychological effect," when I can't really be sure myself. And I, of course, every once in a while, I have a skeptic on there who will say stuff like that. And my question to them is, have you ever been to Antarctica? How do you know it exists? And they'll say, movies, documentaries, books. And I say, well, there's movies, documentaries, and books on ghosts. Just because you've never experienced something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So I consider myself, like you gentlemen, a optimistic skeptic,
Yeah.
leaning towards skeptic mostly. We've certainly had those discussions privately, but you never know. There's only one way to find out. Hopefully, that's many decades from now.
Right, right. Well, and the idea of the foundation of the mystery collection is objects. I mean, it's a collection, and you both. I mean, Paul, you've seen a good chunk of the collection, and I have a great story. When I was doing restaurant shows, I was doing the first mystery collection shows were dinner theater. It was dinner shows, and I have an object in my collection that belonged to Aleister Crowley. And I had a woman sit right up front, and as I'm setting up and I'm talking to the people at the tables while they're eating dinner, she waves me over, and I went over. She goes, "I just have to tell you, I am a huge skeptic, and I'm here to bust you." And I said, "Well, I hope you can at least have fun. I hope you still enjoy the show." And she said, "Well, I want to let you know that you're being watched." And I said, "Okay, okay. All right, what do you say? What do you say? All right." And I said, "Well, I hope you still can find a way to enjoy the evening. How's the dinner? How's?" And she said, "Everything's great, but I just want to let you know I'm a skeptic." And I said, "Well, that makes two of us." And I just turned around and walked back and started the show. Well, throughout the night, then I present. My show isn't all ta-da moments. My show, there's a lot of stories that don't have ta-da moments where I have the object. I have a crying boy. I have an original crying boy painting, and I show it and I tell the story. There's no magic. There's no ta-da moment with it. Well, with the Aleister Crowley piece, I brought it out and I passed some parts of it around, and it gets to this woman and she does this, and she shakes her head, and I said, hold on, and I said this in front of all the people in the room. I said, at the beginning of the evening, you told me you're a skeptic and you're here to bust me. And she said, "Yeah, but there's just some things that are too much." And I didn't say anything, but inside I felt, that you find, the people that tell you, "I'm a skeptic, I'm here to bust you." I found the line. And I imagine on both of your ghost tours, I've never conducted a ghost tour. I've been on several, and I've been approached about doing some in downtown Greeley, which may happen this fall. But I imagine you get to that point where you see, and I know James and I have talked about this, where people come in and they're like, "Haha, I'm going to bust this guy. Especially in New Orleans, where you can walk around with, a drink this big, and your attitude, your ego gets inflated. James posted earlier on here that his favorite, let me see if I can find it, his favorite comment, his favorite review on his ghost tour is, "Great tour, wonderful storyteller, didn't see any ghosts, 2 stars.
I saw that.
Right. So, but when you hit that moment, and I won't repeat the story because everybody who's watching has probably seen it. There was a moment in my basement about a year and a half ago that I heard one of my bells ring, and it really turned me inside out for the evening. Now there were drugs and alcohol involved, but it turned me inside out. And what turned me inside out, guys, wasn't that the bell rang. It was that now all of a sudden I'm doubting the foundation of which I've built this whole belief system, right? That I've built this idea. So I always like to hear from people that deal in the paranormal, and not just on how you deal with it and how you get from A to Z, but how you deal with the people that pay you to be scared. They're coming to you and they are expecting a specific reaction. They're expecting like when you go on a roller coaster, you are expecting this. You are expecting this. When you go see a scary movie, you are expecting those hold on to your seat moments. When you go on a ghost tour, you are, as James mentioned, you are expecting a ghost, right? I mean, you are expecting a ghost. And the fine line between delivery and disappointment, it depends on how the spectator, what prejudices or opinions the spectator brings to it. Any thoughts on how you deliver? I mean, how do you deliver the goods on a ghost tour?
So, Paul, I'll start by just briefly telling a story. One of the few times that's similar to what you just told that flustered me was actually at the Lord Baltimore. Vince had me up there and graciously gave me one of his ghost hunts to do, and I did a seance afterwards. And I had a particularly strong piece where one of the ladies went, in the audience, she just went, "Okay, you can stop now." I went, what do you mean? And she said, well, this is clearly fake. She's in on this because there's no way this could happen unless she's in on this. And the woman up there, I turn and look, and she's crying. And she's like, I don't know this guy. I've never met him. I'm not in on anything. What are you talking about? And that was one of the few times it really kind of hit me how truly powerful this can be. Because, again, yeah, I don't make disclaimers. I don't market as a magician. I let them believe what they want to believe. And that was interesting seeing one person who was like, this has to be fake because there's no way it can happen. While another person is up there crying because of how powerful it is to them. But back to your question about the ghost tour, I do start my tour saying, and I stole this line. I shouldn't say stole it. Ed Underwood gave it to me. He was doing ghost tours in Jonesboro, Arkansas, which is what got me started. And he said, this is not a Scooby-Doo episode. No one's going to jump out and yell boo. This isn't a haunted house. So I kind of put that out there right off the bat that they might not see anything at all. Now, on the flip side, I also do shows on Wednesday and Thursday night during the season that are called Booze and Brews, where we do a seance, a reenactment of a seance. So, of course, things absolutely do happen during that.
Right. Well, and on that note, and I mentioned my friend Marty and Candace Perez last weekend. They are paranormal investigators and ghost hunters in Wyoming. And we were on a panel together. Actually, I think he was in the audience of my little lecture, and I was in the audience during his lecture at the Cheyenne Comic-Con a few years ago. And we got into a very fun sparring match about, because I said the same thing. I'm a James Randi skeptic, and I think my line was to Marty, and I think they're, I don't know if they're on or not, but they're amazing people, and I hope they don't take this. But my line to Marty was, can you guarantee a paranormal experience at every one of your ghost tours? And he says, obviously not. And I said, I can't. I mean, because what I do is theater. And even though I announce it as theater and I label it as theater, there are still people that come in and say, you have to say it's theater. The owner of the venue says you have to say it's theater. I mean, Vince, if you went to at the Lord Baltimore and you went and said, I'm conjuring spirits, and I don't know, how would the Lord Baltimore, what is the I guess this is a whole other topic. How does the Lord Baltimore deal with you talking with spirits? Or do you have carte blanche? Can you do whatever you want?
So I submitted them a script, and I said, here, please review the stories I've researched that I've learned from you guys about your own experiences. And it says, since the Great Depression to modern day, there have been over 30 suicides confirmed at the Lord Baltimore Hotel. And they sent it back to me and they said, hey, that looks right. So they're really cool about the ghost stories, within reason, of course.
Right.
Although some would argue that's that might be unreasonable, but yeah, they're really cool about it because they looked at it objectively and accurately. When I talk to a venue about doing seances or ghost tours or ghost hunts or a paranormal magic show or any of the things I do, or hypnosis or whatever, I tell them Scooby and Shaggy are not real people. In these modern times, there are two types of individuals who are going to come to your venue or hotel. Those who believe in ghosts and say, I am absolutely coming to this now because I watch those ghost hunting shows. All right? Or, I don't believe in ghosts, but I need a place to stay. No one's going to be going, I'm not coming to this place because it's so haunted. It's not a thing that really happens anymore. Sure, a small fraction of percentage of people might not be going to places because it's haunted, but you can argue any old hotel is haunted because people die in hotels all the time. They're just not reported at hotels. They're reported in the hospital when the doctors verify the time of death, or in the ambulance on the way there. So every year there's deaths in hotels. The larger the capacity, the more likely that is to happen.
I think one of the lessons I loved, Scooby was a big deal to me when I was a kid, and fortunately Scooby was a big deal to both of my kids, and it really was one of the things that I bonded with my kids about was the Scooby-Doo mysteries. And I think one of the things, and this is the most political I'll get during this today's show, is I think one of the things that we can all take out of Scooby-Doo is that most of the monsters in this world are real people. You know, I mean, most of the monsters and the people that are doing the bad stuff, they're just people behind a mask. And I think that I think that Scooby is one of those things that I have not watched. I can't believe here's a bunch of grown men talking about Scooby Doo. I can't believe I have not watched the new one, Scoob. Have you seen the ads for this movie?
I've heard it was not that great.
Well, it's the origin story, and that's my jam. I mean, I'm a sucker for origin stories, for backstories. But I got to tell you, when I lost Scooby was Scrappy. That's when I quit. When they brought Scrappy on, that's when I was done.
Yeah.
So we're about the halfway point, and I haven't done any of my housekeeping. So if you guys can give me a few minutes, I'm going to give a few of the mystery collection news and updates on some stuff coming up. I posted earlier the schedule for the upcoming weeks, and I don't have it memorized, so I'm going to have to read it. So give me just a second. And Paul, if you need to go refill, Vince, if you need to refill, do it.
I'm doing that and going to pee real quick. I'll be right back.
All right. So this upcoming Friday, on Friday, June 12th, my guest is going to be Dacre Stoker. And Dacre is the great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula. I'm really excited about this. And when we did move it to Friday, he had an event come up on the regular scheduled Sunday. So he will be here Friday, 6 o'clock Mountain Time. We're also going to give away, during that, we're going to give away one of Gemini Artifacts and Cemetery Dance replica first edition Draculas. We're going to give one of these away. In order to qualify for one of those, you need to go to GeminiArtifacts.com and purchase one of my effects called 38 Blocks. I won't tip it too much here, but it's sold very well, and it's been very popular, gotten great reviews. 38 Blocks is a New Orleans-based story routine. Check it out. I'm very proud of it. It's gotten some great reviews. Dacre and I are going to talk about his book, Dracul, which is I guess it's a prelude. It's a precursor to Dracula. It's the backstory, the beginning of the Dracula story. So that's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm going to take a couple weeks off in the next few weeks. On Sunday, June 21st, it's Father's Day. So I'm going to take that show off and go hang out with my kiddos and play some Frisbee golf or just hang out. On Sunday, the 26th, is Adam Zimmerly. I'd mentioned him earlier. He's the owner and operator of the Black Monarch Hotel, which if you don't know about the Black Monarch, go to the blackmonarchhotel.com. There's a link to it on the Mystery Collection Facebook page. Adam is an amazing, super interesting guy. And he is we've been working on a few things together. He let me take some wood from his remodel. I've got the Ouija board box coming. That will be we'll show that on the 26th. We're also going to announce the Mystery Collection weekends on the 26th. We're hoping to start those up in August. So tune in for that. July 5th, there's going to be no show. It's the 4th of July weekend. It's also my birthday weekend. So we're not going to do that. For my birthday, we're going to watch some movies in my backyard. I got a projector and a screen, and we're going to watch the Indiana Jones movies in my backyard that weekend. So I'm going to take that weekend off. Sunday, July 12th. I'm sorry?
Not the Crystal Skull, I hope.
No, we're going to just watch the first three. Just the first three. Yeah. On the 12th, I have a guest I'm working on right now. I don't have it confirmed, so there's still news to come on the July 12th. July 19th is one I'm really looking forward to. These poor women, I feel terrible for them. I've stolen their hashtag for the last several years, and I didn't even know. And I'm that guy. These Kim Mosier and Jen Taylor have a very fun podcast that deal with two of my favorite things in the world. It's called Booze and Bourbon, BOOS and Bourbon. And these two talk about they drink a specific bottle of bourbon during the show and talk about a story. You can find them. There's a link on my Facebook page, on the Mystery Collection Facebook page. You can check out their podcast. Very, very fun. They're out of Canada. They're going to be my guests on July 19th. I'm going to be on their show probably in mid-August. July 26th is going to be Brian Kane. Now, Brian was was recommended to me by my friend Marita Crandall, who was a guest earlier. She's the owner of the Boutique des Vampires and Potions Lounge in New Orleans. Marita is one of my favorite people in the world. She recommended Brian very highly. He is the high priest of the Alexandrian tradition of witchcraft, and he is the author of Initiation into Witchcraft. He is the head of one of the witchcraft covens of New Orleans. I'm really looking forward to talking to Brian. I don't know Brian. I'm really looking forward to meeting him and talking with him. I mentioned the drawing. Go to GeminiArtifacts.com for information on 38 blocks. Bill Barkley says 38 blocks is a terrific prop and routine. Thank you, Bill. I'm very proud of it. It was a lot of fun. It was supposed to go out on tour with Paul and I before it went on sale, and we talked. I whined about that earlier. A couple other things. Again, every drink that Paul, Vince, and I take today is dedicated to our friend Zeke Powers. Oh, turn that around. Oh, James Corbett says, please tell me that's not Fireball.
Oh, yes, it is.
So to our friend.
Whiskey.
Yeah.
It does say whiskey on there, despite what you might argue.
Right. So one real quick to our friend Zeke Powers. To Zeke, everybody.
Let me pour one, and I'll.
And then also, this is my plug. I've started a Patreon page. Some of the experiences on the Patreon page are really, really fun. There's some customized Black Monarch weekends. There's some special shows. One of the highest, and I don't know if anybody's going to do this. I think it's super fun. I've been working on this show, and I think actually both of you have talked to me about the show and kind of consulted me on the show. I've been working on this Spirits with Spirits show for years, and it includes it's a bourbon seance. Well, it's expensive. It's the most expensive thing on the Patreon sponsorship list, but it comes with a 20-year Pappy Van Winkle bottle, which is about a $2,500 bottle of whiskey. So you get to drink that with me, hear about some whiskey, and there'll be a whole bunch of other bottles of whiskey that come with me. But and we're gonna do a Soapy Smith seance. So that is at patreon.com/the mystery collection. That's how I'm gonna keep this going. I hope to keep this going. Once this clears and we start traveling, this show is going with me. This show's going with me everywhere I go. I'm supposed to be in the UK for 3 weeks in September. If that works out, this show's going with me. I'm not stopping doing the show. I'm going to find friends. I've got some dear friends in Ireland, and we all three have dear friends in and around London and Sheffield that I'm sure will be guests. So I'm hoping to take this with me. Again, if you go to the Patreon page, even the littlest bit helps quite a bit. So that is all the plugs I have. I want to get on to some other of the questions.
On the Patreon.
Oh, right, there are shirts. The second level, you get some shirts and some hats and that kind of stuff, and you get to help design shirts. One of the things I am a nerd for shirts, and Paul will back this up. I think Vince, I don't know. I think you've seen some of the shirts or have some.
Yeah.
I did a shirt for Halloween a couple of years ago that was the Jim Jones Memorial Drinking Contest, and I got to tell you, that's funny. That's really funny. The Drink Whiskey Hail Satan shirt was one of my favorites. I've got a couple other ones coming. I did a whole series of Clue shirts. I don't know if you remember those that had Clue reveals on them.
I should go change shirts real quick.
Yeah, right. You and Kanye West change your shirts 5 times during your show. And
I've got your Clue shirt too.
Which one do you have? Probably all of them.
I think it was a gray one.
Okay, Mrs. White. Gray one is Mrs. White. So there's several. I'm a sucker for shirts, and one of the things that my friend Chelsea Lowe posted about this on Facebook is what she loves about my shirts is they're good quality. How many times I went and saw Sabbath on the In Tour, and I paid $75 for a T-shirt. I wore it once. It was a piece of shit. It was the worst grade T-shirt I've ever bought. So I went high end shirts because I only want to give people shirts that I would wear. So I change up, but every 6 weeks I order a new shirt. I've got some with the Scrabble logo. I've got some the Mystery Collection logo. So one of the levels of Patreon is you get to help design shirts, and you get shirts that are for, I put members only, and I said not the 80s clothing brand, but members only shirts. So if you get a chance. Also, we're still collecting for the WD French brand. I don't know if you guys saw this. I know, Paul, you probably haven't heard the story. WD French, you've heard my Wilbur French bit. He's a local legend here in town. His brand, going back to the 1870s, his cattle brand, became available this year. So I have filed paperwork for the Mystery Collection to own the WD French brand. We came up with this on the spur of the moment when I had Keith Olson on a few weeks ago, and I've had a tremendous response. I needed $200 to file the first paperwork. It's going to cost about $800 to actually get the brand, but I needed $200 within a couple days. Viewers PayPal'd and Venmo'd me. I had $200 and I filed it. So we're gonna the first T-shirt we're gonna make under this Venmo deal is gonna have the brand on it. And I did say if I raised $1,000, by my birthday, I would get the tattoo. I'd get the brand tattooed on my arm. And I also committed James Corbin to getting the tattoo. But Ruby says she commented what with a bunch of question marks. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the update of the mystery collection. This really is, and this is I don't know if I've said this before, but you two are friends, and so I'll say this while I'm here. This has gone beyond what I thought it would be. When I quit my job, I was a professional counter. I said that the other day, and I got to kind of laugh, but I was in finance for almost 20 years, and so I called myself a professional counter. And right before I turned 40 years old, I'm coming up on my 45th birthday in July. And before I turned 40 years old, I quit my job to pursue this. And by doing that, I've met, you guys have seen, the viewers out there have seen the people that I've met. Every guest so far has been a friend and somebody that I've hung out with outside of online. And I am really the luckiest kid in the entire world that I get to do this. And I get to travel around the world and tell these stories about my imaginary friend when I was a kid and about my grandma Isla taking me to a circus. And I get to drink whiskey, hail Satan, drink beer. I get to share stories. I get to run down the street and buy medicine for my friend Vince, whose brains are falling out of his face. And I get to share stories with some of the most interesting people in the world. And I am absolutely the luckiest kid in the entire world. So to you two and to everybody else who's been a guest on this silly little adventure of mine, I can't thank you enough. This has been really fun. I don't talk about myself a lot, but I do appreciate everything that the both of you have done. The both of you answer every phone call. Hey, I need help on this. I need help on this. And the two of you specifically, there's a handful of people that I owe where I am too, and the two of you are definitely on that list. So I think I called you both when I did the
smart, awesome, fun guy.
Well, thank you. When I secured the deal for the Black Monarch, I think I called both of you that day and said, this is a big deal. Thanks to you guys. So enough of sappy. Whatever. So let's get back to some bullshit. So the questions that I asked, here's some rapid fire questions. And what's funny is I started this a couple weeks ago. I said rapid fire. These are going to be rapid fire questions, and I got one in, and 20 minutes later. So we started this. So one of the questions that I sent this to you guys ahead of time. We all deal in the paranormal and the occult and spooky. Vince, what scares Vince Wilson? Where's the line? Where's the line in your performance and in your personal / professional life? Where's the line that you won't cross? What is too scary for Vince Wilson?
Bigfoot. Yep. Sasquatch, definitely, 100%. Yep. When I was a kid, I was one of those UHF documentary shows I told you about.
Yeah.
I saw a documentary on Bigfoot, and when a Bigfoot snuck into this Russian kid's bedroom. And in this documentary, they had, I'm sure it's gone forever. You'll never see this even on YouTube. But this black-haired Bigfoot was in the corner, and the documentary gave it glowing red eyes. And I knew that Sasquatch was going to break into my house in downtown Baltimore and kill me in my sleep. For years, the documentaries on Bigfoot as a child scared me. One of the things I've always wanted to do is actually go into the woods and go on a Sasquatch hunt just to get over this, whatever is left over from that irrational fear of a thing that doesn't exist.
So Vince, I got to tell you, their Atlas Obscura, one of the websites, has recently posted several articles in the last 6 months about Yeti / Sasquatch / Bigfoot sightings in Colorado. So wow. I know I've only asked probably 3 or 4 dozen times for you to come out, but there's one more reason. You got to come out to Colorado. We'll go on a Bigfoot hunt.
I am definitely doing that.
All right.
That would have happened probably
by now, right?
This weekend, yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
It had been for the pandemic, yeah.
I understand. So, Paul, you deal with. You deal with your professional life. Sometimes you deal with bad guys. You also live in the state that has Jason Rapert, So so you know about terrifying things. And if you guys don't know who Jason Rapert is, look him up. I did say I wasn't going to get political, but I will. Fuck Jason Rapert. So Paul, you live in the same state as Jason Rapert. So tell us what scares you.
Okay, I gotta do two. I'll make them super quick.
No, we got plenty of time. Take your time.
You brought up Jason Rapert, not me. Back, this was probably 2010 or so, 2012, somewhere around there. Jason Rapert was a brand new legislator, and he was not on his crazy. Yeah, look him up if you don't know who he is. He was not that way. He actually sponsored a bill that I got passed through the Arkansas legislature that I wrote. Believe that or not. So I actually worked with Jason Rapert on a bill. And then about a year ago, the Arkansas Satanic Temple asked me to do a show, and I did a cuss cards. Well, let me rephrase. I had it prepared, and then they ended up having to cancel the event. But I was doing a cuss cards routine where I was going to reveal the devil as the final card. But what it was going to be was Jason Rapert. And when I moved the thing through the flames, it was going to turn into the devil card. So, going for Jason Rapert to the devil. And they were actually raising money to give to I don't know, something that Jason Rapert was on his hot horse against that day. So anyway, fun little Jason Rapert stories.
But I think, I mean, again, and I'm, well, I don't care. I think we can agree. Fuck Jason Rapert. I think everybody can agree with that. So,
absolutely.
So Paul,
as an aside with that, guys, for any of you, this isn't even political. It's a lot of fun. But Jason Rapert got a bill passed to have a 10 Amendment statue put up at the Capitol. And one day, not even 24 hours after it was up, some crazy guy is in his car filming himself yelling, they can never take our freedom, as he drives his car through the statue. So go and look that up. It's a lot of fun.
Well, and he actually did it. So this is there's a lot about this in the documentary. I think it's on Amazon Prime. I know it's on Hulu, but I think it's on Amazon Prime as well. Yeah. The Hail Satan documentary about the Satanic Temple, about Lucius Graves and the Satanic Temple. And if you have not watched that what? I'm sorry?
I was there that day when they filmed all that at the Capitol. I was standing there.
So the fun part about the Satanic Temple is they don't believe in Satan. That's the funnest part about it. These guys are the best. But if you get a chance, watch that documentary because they talk about that. Now, the guy that destroyed that monument was a hardcore evangelical Christian because he destroyed it because he wanted to take away the right because he knew they were screwed. That if they put that up, then the Satanic Temple got a right to put theirs up. And he said, well, if that's gone, they don't. I mean, we won't talk about this. I've actually sent a couple of emails to Lucius Grave to see if he'd come on this. But we'll see. But anyway, so Paul, back to the original topic. See, this is what happens. I said rapid fire, and here we are. So what? I mean, you deal with ghosts, and you deal with some scary stuff. What as Paul Prater, the individual, what scares you?
Virtually nothing but losing my teeth.
Okay.
I know that sounds crazy, but I broke a tooth and had to have a crown, and I was like, I had to be talked off a ledge. I was freaking out, because I broke a tooth. Like, no, I'm deformed, but that, and then to tie in with what Mint said, mine's not Bigfoot, but when I was a kid, my dad's a Baptist minister. My parents are very religious, and I also loved heavy metal. When I was a real little kid, Kiss was really big, so I loved Kiss, but like I couldn't watch it or listen to it because it was forbidden. And I had these nightmares that Gene Simmons was going to come through my window in his big dragon demon boots and step on my head and kill me with those boots. So that terrified me as a child.
I think you and about 50,000 women across the country have that reoccurring nightmare, probably, right?
But they're kind of his tongue.
So no, I was a metal kid as well. I was at Alice Cooper, Ozzy. That was my jam when I was a kid, and I remember I grew up, and I don't know if I've talked about this, and maybe it's for later. I was a pretty hardcore Catholic up into my early 20s, and I was very active in my youth groups, and I was very active in being and going out and spreading the good word. And they sent me, but at the same time, I was listening to Alice Cooper and Ozzy. I tell you, nobody ever asks me. I see all these top 10 album, posts where people say so and so nominated me. Nobody ever nominates me, and I'm waiting for somebody to do it because I've got mine prepared. Dio Dio, Holy Diver, was one of the albums that turned my life around. I mean, that album is amazing. Dio, when he was with Rainbow, that is some awesome stuff. Anyway, so my parents were really worried, so they sent me to this. I want to say it's kind of a deprogramming camp, and we were at a YMCA camp up in the mountains, and it was all about taking Satan out of these kids' lives. And I went to this workshop that was all about about Kiss, and they showed videos, and they'd stop it. And they'd say, see, this is where the devil is. And they'd show you when Gene Simmons would turn, and they said he specifically is showing his amulet this direction. And you can see. And they were telling you, know, this is the first time I've talked about this. This is awesome. And they were talking about the KISS, meaning kids in Satan's service. Remember, you've heard that one, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so no, I grew up a metal kid. My parents actually went to the church and said, my son loves Alice Cooper. Would you let him go to an Alice Cooper concert? I mean, I was 14, and I had actually I'd called, and I'd saved up money, and I'd called a limo service to see how much a limo service would be to take me and a buddy from Greeley down to Denver, which is about 70 miles. And I had saved up the money because I knew they weren't going to take me. And I'd saved up all the money to buy tickets and a limo service to take us and wait. And my parents wouldn't let me go. They wouldn't let me go to see Alice Cooper when I was 14 years old.
So, Paul, a similar story. We had these two brothers. I don't remember their names, but they were brothers, and they toured churches, giving these things about the evil and heavy metal lyrics. And they came to our church, and I was singing along with all the songs, and my dad was giving me the death stare the whole time.
That's awesome.
One of the things I remember in particular, though, is they did Creeping Death by Metallica, and they were using that to show that the lyrics were evil. And I went, Mom, Dad, read them. It's about the Passover. It's straight out of the Bible.
Right.
It's not evil.
Well, as I got older, when I got a little, my real music became Glenn Danzig, and I think I may have talked about this before. Everything Danzig did, from the Misfits to Sam Hain to Danzig, I'm a big fan of. And Calvin and I talked about this, maybe on the show or maybe I don't remember. Danzig recently did this Danzig Sings Elvis. Oh my God, have you heard it, Paul?
I have, yeah.
Oh, it's on Amazon, so you can listen to it for free. It fucking sucks. It's the worst karaoke shit I've ever heard in my life. And I watched his stupid fucking movie on TV, that Veriteka. Oh my God. I hope he meant it as a joke. And unfortunately, as much as I know about Danzig, he didn't. But where you were talking about the lyrics, one of the things that I defended Danzig, they're like, oh, it's all hidden lyrics. I'm like, it's not hidden. You know what I mean? You read it. He's telling you what it is. So I guess you're losing your teeth, and Gene Simmons sneaking into your bedroom and stepping on your head is what scares you.
Yeah. Because I wanted him to come into my house, but like not through the window.
Yeah, right. So I saw Kiss. I don't know. I've seen Kiss probably 6 or 7 times, and the last time I saw him was at Cheyenne Frontier Days, and it was good. It was a good way to cap it off and say, I'm done seeing Kiss.
Yeah, I saw them about a year ago, and it was actually pretty terrible, and we left before the show was even over. But let me tell you this, it started with my friend Craig, who neither one of you have met, unfortunately.
I've heard you talk about him, though. I've heard you talk about Craig quite a bit.
Yeah, I've known Craig most. I think it's rare that you have friends that you've known. I've now known Craig for 35 years. You know, you don't have friends usually that long, it's just to hang out with. But Craig was trying to get into the venue, and he was wearing a shirt that said fucking classy and like this super fancy script. They told him he couldn't come in because his shirt was offensive. So I'm trying to get Craig to come in, and he rips his ticket, throws it in the person's face, and goes, no 2-bit fucking security guard is going to tell me what the fuck I can wear. So that was the start of my Kiss experience.
You know,
I was calling him, like looking at him through the window, like, what are you doing? He's like, I ripped the ticket up and threw it in their face. I'm like, I know, now you can't go to the show.
You know, Kiss is one of those bands, and I on one hand, you got to say, you know, sucks. On the other hand, they have played the same set list for 40 years. Nobody goes to see Kiss to hear their new shit. Nobody. If you don't, you can go to, there's a great website called setlists.fm.
Yeah.
You know about that, right? And it drives my wife crazy.
Yeah, every time I go into a show, I download their set list, and
Yeah.
on my Spotify and listen to it before the show.
Yeah, when my wife and I were dating, we went and saw AFI, the band AFI, back when they were, back in the day, and I made her a mixed tape on a mixed CD of the set list because I found it on the Setlist FM, and if you go back and look at Setlist FM for Kiss, I'll bet it has not changed in 30, 40 years. So, so Paul, you also turned me on to the band Ghost. We went and saw the band Ghost earlier this year at the Budweiser Center on their tour. I'll tell you, that is another band that has really been a big deal to me. They are. Tobias is he? I think he's a true musician. He is really good. He's good.
And do you remember? I don't know if you remember, but years ago, I was in Colorado, in Denver, and I was walking down. What is it, the 17th Street Mall?
16th Street Mall, 16th Street Mall, yeah.
16th Street. That was close. That was a block off.
Yeah. Well, you could have been walking down 17th Street, but there's not a whole lot of shit there.
Yeah, well, I may have been. I don't know. That was also my first experience with edibles, so it very well may have been. Anyway, I'm looking down the left and see this big marquee that says Ghost. And you remember I texted you and said, come to the Ghost show with me. And you're like, I just got back from South America or something. You're like, my wife will kill me.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience with edibles. I went to a Ghost show by myself after eating some edibles, and that was a lot of fun.
Nice. Yeah, that was the trip that I took with Giorgio from Ancient Aliens, where we went down to South America for almost 3 weeks and toured the jungles of Peru and Bolivia. I'm hoping to have him come on after some contract stuff works out. So he's been a big friend and a great supporter of this silly little adventure I've been on. So we've talked about what scares you guys. So Vince, you've come a long way in the last year with this Poe theater, only to have it kind of have your hamstring pulled out from you with this. So where do you see where do you see Poe's going? Vince and I have talked recently and about doing some online, and we haven't hit Paul up, but we'll put him on the spot now. We've talked about doing some online magic lectures and some workshops online to where magicians can log in and listen to somebody talk about specific. Paul's given several lectures for magicians on marketing and on the business side and the legal side, and I think that's invaluable. I mean, I've been to most of them. And I think it's invaluable. And Vince is a tremendous storyteller, as Paul is. But Vince and I have talked about doing these online this online convention for a couple weeks now, and we're going to get started on talking more about that soon. But where do you see Post Theater? Where do you see the Vince Wilson experience, for lack of a better term, going in the next couple of years?
Well, for Post Theater, we were supposed to go to weekly. In fact, we started going weekly this year. We were going to have some local magicians fill in the gaps and having one, guest performer every other weekend or once a month at least. And we're also going to focus to being on brand. Storytelling magic is where we're going with that. We're going to stay on brand. No more, sure, we had lots of great magicians there, and some of them weren't in that branding aspect, and they were magnificent and awesome and wonderful. But truth be told, the hotel, I do ghost tours and paranormal shows and that sort of thing. And even though I don't expect magicians to do paranormal, psychic, or ghost shows, I still want to have them have a story or a narrative. And there's a lot of magicians who fall in that category that most people will be surprised about. All right, so we're not limiting ourselves just by staying within that brand. So Pose, when it comes back, will be focused on shows that have an arc to it, basically, a beginning, a middle, and end. It will be our branding focus, and there's lots of amazingly talented performers that will be involved with that. As far as we're going to come back with the ghost tours, but at Ground Post Gravesite again, be more involved. I'm also on the board of directors of the Ground Poe House, so I'll be doing things with them. I only started recently telling people about that, so you're only the second time I've ever said publicly that's a thing. So well,
congratulations. That's a big deal. Congratulations. That's really awesome. Yeah. That is awesome.
Yep. It pays nothing, but it's really cool to be part of it.
But Vince, I mean, I know you laugh about that, but you get, it's Edgar Allan Poe, and you get to be part of spreading one of the founders of Edgar Allan Poe is responsible for the detective novel, correct? I mean, that's one of the things that people don't know about is Edgar Allan Poe is the beginning of the detective novel.
Yeah, Detective Japan. And, the first story was, of course, Murders in the Rue Morgue. Spoilers: the killer is a little hairy. Just letting you know that. If you ever read the story, you get that joke. Not really a joke, but it's true. Anyway, but personally, if you know anything about it, of course, all three of us have talked about our history and past and how we got into it. I did seances and what they call underground magic in Baltimore, in the DC area for years and years ago, which doesn't give you a lot of notoriety. It pays well. It helps you improve your skills, but no one knows who you are because you're performing in lounges and that sort of thing. We mutually know magicians, or specifically a magician, who does that sort of thing. And then I opened a parlor show in Harper's Ferry, which was a full-time job, really, because I was open 6 days a week. I only closed on Sundays to take a break. But that took me out of the, any kind of recognition because I was dedicated to doing in a historic town of Harper's Ferry, West Virginia. And now I'm back in Baltimore, doing stuff in Baltimore and trying to get recognized and be more involved in the magic community in that regard, but also bringing my brand of magic and performance to the area. Post Magic will also be involved in that. Reach out to magicians to help them improve their performances, and it's not. We're not. And let me put emphasis. We're not telling them how to do magic. That's up to them on how they want to do their magic. But we'll help them in any way they need help as much as we can. And those workshops usually are free, except every once in a while we bring in Paul Prater, for a paid workshop because he's flying in, so he needs a little ticket money back. For the most part, we're giving them free workshops. We're helping them out. We're there for them and giving them opportunities to perform when they probably wouldn't be able to do so otherwise. So that's where I see myself and Poe's Magic in the future. So, and of course, me and Paul Nofsinger and Paul Prater and some other friends, mutual friends, hopefully will be starting our magic classes. We're still settling on a name, but it'll come.
Well, and I didn't prepare either of you, but Vince hit me up with this idea a couple weeks ago, and this is perfect because the three of us, I think, maybe with the exception of Jim Cleefield, may be part of it as well. Vince approached me with an idea of a show called Obscene because he has seen my offensive. Yep. He has seen my East Coast Spirit Sessions performances. I have video of this year's East Coast Spirit performance, East Coast Spirit Sessions performance, and I'm going to give a little bit of history about it, and then I'm going to tell you where you can get the video. I came up with a joke about 90 seconds before I went on, and I was standing next to Paul, and I remember Paul. I said, "Okay, here's my joke. Should I say it?" Because I didn't. You said, "Fuck yes, you should say it."
And then I said, "Hey, why would you ask me about what's in good taste?"
Right, but because I figured you knew, because I mean, in today's times, I didn't know the performer. It referenced another performer, and I didn't know her. And I didn't know her level of. I didn't know, and I didn't want to be that guy. So I asked Paul, and Paul. I mean, it was hilarious. It really was. I mean, Vince, you saw it. You were in the audience that night, or yeah. you were the MC that night. Well, anyway, you were there. And so then I think Paul said, "Go ask Tiffany." So I asked Tiffany Allen, and Tiffany Allen said, "If you don't say it, I'm never talking to you again. We're not friends." And so I went out, and I've talked to Steve Gibson about this, and I talked to Vlad. I think I talked on your podcast, Vince. I talked about this. I think one of the disservices I've done my show at East Coast Spirit Sessions is I get up there, and as my good friend Mark from New Orleans Secrets says, I am the Sam Kinison of Bizarre Magic. I got up there and I tell offensive, but hilarious jokes, and I don't think that gives the people that see me there a good view of how serious I mean, you two know how serious I take this and what a student of this is and how deep I am into this and how real this is to me. But I go to these fucking conventions and I see all my buddies and I have to get up there and tell terribly offensive but hilarious jokes. So Vince hit me up with this idea of a show that is entirely blue. And we talked about maybe doing it at one of the conventions at midnight one night, where if you know you're coming, you know what you're coming to. There's no, oh my God, I can't believe this guy was offensive, because you know what you're coming to. And Paul, you won a silly award for hitting people with a big sex toy. Uh-oh, is he going to get the award? Yeah, here we go. I mean, you had, Paul has this.
I'm sorry, Paul, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Paul has this character that he had not been out for a while, and he was going to be at the Always Theater in New Orleans. The professional badass was coming out at the Always Theater, and he was going to do the professional badass routine. And Paul won an award at one of the conventions we were at for this, and it is not appropriate for family shows. So maybe one of these days we'll get to bust out our offensive show. And I'm supposed to be in the UK when Vince has his convention in September. I'm supposed to be in Ireland and England for 3 weeks. If that doesn't work out, maybe I mean if the travel restrictions are still in place, maybe I'll come out to Baltimore. But I think that's something we need to look at in the future. The three of us, we can. I mean, Vince has floated, and I don't want you to tip any of them here, Vince. Vince has floated some of his ideas, and Paul.
I can say a couple of things.
Yeah, go ahead. Tell us a couple of the ideas. Steve Gibson just posted. Steve Gibson is listening. So.
All right. So there's the Law and Order SVU PK Touch is one idea I had. It's with dolls, but it's like, where were you touched, basically. R. Kelly Loto Bowls is another one I think we're working on. One was The Exorcist. I can't tell you more about that because I'm giving away the ending.
Yep.
But
Keep
maybe
that.
a choose your poison routine, but it has a box that says Bill Cosby on it. And I want to. There's that ultimate one, the psychic surgery one, but I'm not going to tell you any more than that because you had to come to the show to see that one. And maybe I guess I could mention the JFK bullet catch, which is something I definitely want to do.
And I think when you told that story, I brought up the Otto and George JFK. If you don't know Otto and George, look it up. Otto and George they're a big part of why I am what I am today is Otto Peterson and George. So.
But yeah, so offensive is definitely it's funny how Paul Prater has, become the go-to person if you want to do a offensive routine. He helped me out a couple of years ago too, and that was I'm surprised it was not more controversial than it was.
Well, I think once people come to expect Vince, it's like, he's just going to offend me anyway.
Well, right. Nobody, when they say our next performer comes from a shitty little town in northern Colorado, everybody puts their seatbelt on and knows that this dick's going to say some ugly shit. I mean, that's the, when you open with the talking about forming your own religion, ta-da, right? It's and one of the things, my favorite line, Steve Gibson, if you're listening, who also did the best performance. I'm sorry to everybody else. I got to keep beating on this. Steve Gibson did the best performance of 2020's East Coast Spirit Sessions, without a doubt. But the year after I did the show, which it's my very first performance for Magicians with East Coast Spirit Sessions, I followed our friend. I can't even say his name again because he's going to get all excited that I mentioned him now 3 times. I followed our friend Zeke. You guys were both there, and I had my script written. And Zeke was so funny that I had to abandon my script because I could not follow Zeke and be serious. And so I just winged it the whole night, and it became what is now the Mystery Collection. And I talked about this before. But Steve Gibson came up to me afterwards, and he said, I had no idea you were so funny. And I thought, well, that was just me. And so that's kind of what I decided to start doing. So So, guys, we're about
Zeke
down to.
is-
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Zeke is one of the best human beings I've ever met.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? Don't say anything nice about the guy anymore. Don't say anything nice about him. He gets too excited, and he'll, you know, I mean, he'll get all excited, and he'll think he's way more important than he is. So don't say anything more nice about
Goes to
Zeke.
his head, yeah.
You know,
Paul, do you remember one of his lines? I clearly remember. He said, "We have two of the Pauls here. One owns a brewery. The other one just smells like one."
right. And the question is they didn't know which one was which.
Right.
So I got to tell you, one of these days I'll have Zeke on. I'm thinking about doing another show and having it once a month where I have a buddy on who's a non-magic buddy, and he sits at the bar, and we just get shit-faced. And then we page in with this. We wire in with a magician. And I'm going to have Zeke on one of these times. Zeke has come out for the last. He's a Cleveland Browns fan, and I'll let him tell you the story why he's a Browns fan. But the Browns have played the Broncos the last 2 years, and he's come out for both games. And everybody listening and everybody in the world would be lucky to have a friend like Zeke Powers. And that I'll leave it at that. And then other than that, he's not that great. I mean, whatever. So we're at about 10 minutes left. I know you guys have several irons in the fire right now. Vince has Vince, I apologize. I didn't even get to your H.H. Holmes bit. You've done stuff with H.H. Holmes' relatives. You've been on TV talking about H.H. Holmes. You've done some stuff. What do you want to plug? What do you want people to remember? What do you want people to know about Vince Wilson?
Well, I have more seances and shows coming up. I'm working on 2 stage shows right now, scripting those out. One's called Haunted Places, and another one's called Warlock. And I'm working on those 2 right now. And I want to submit some artwork to you soon, because I have a great idea for a mystery collection T-shirt called H.H. Homes and Gardens, which will be like a magazine cover. That needs to be a thing.
So I got to tell you, the not to keep plugging it, but the Black Monarch in Victor, Colorado has an H.H. Holmes room. They have a room dedicated to Holmes.
Yeah. Well, trust me, I will be out there. I'm going to visit you as soon as they alleviate some travel aspects. I will be visiting on a tour. I don't know, maybe all 3 of us can get together someplace, but I'll be visiting Colorado and Arkansas at some point, because I want to go to the Crescent. I want to go to Stanley. And the main motivations for going to those places, not only because they're haunted and awesome hotels, but because I have 2 very good friends that live very close to both of them. So,
right. I tell you this every time I talk to you, open invitation. As Paul knows, there are at least 8 seats at this bar, and one of them always has your name on it, Vince. So anytime you want to come.
Thank you. Yeah.
I'm going to substitute my name in there too, because I might be there in 3 weeks if I can come.
But there's always a spot. Always a spot.
I might be there in 3 weeks. I'll sit at your bar. I sat at your bar when you weren't even there one night.
Right. Paul, our guest bedroom is down the hall here. And I said, Paul, I got to go to bed. He's like, do you care if I stay here? I'm like, no, tap's there. Glasses are here. You're up. So Vince, where can people find you? Where can people find more information about Vince Wilson, about Poe Magic? Where can people find you? And I will post, if you want to post all this stuff on the Facebook, have at it.
Well, first of all, Bizarre Hauntings is a conference that you might be coming to, but hopefully you get to go to Europe.
Someday I'm coming. Someday I'm coming to Bizarre Hauntings.
BizarreHauntings.com is definitely happening. It's in September, the weekend of September 10th. If you want to go to BizarreHauntings.com, it's very reasonably priced for a conference. That's coming up in September, very closely tied in with East Coast Spirit Sessions. Another awesome magic conference. This one's coming in September. As far as Post Magic, it's postmagic.com. Everywhere on social media at Post Magic. Okay, sign up for our newsletter. Find out about updates and things that are coming up. You can find out about upcoming virtual shows that Paul's doing. Prater, or actually, what is it? Prater this way?
Yep, that way.
Here.
Yeah.
It's this butt, not this butt. That's right. All right, so Prater is going to do a show. Hopefully, Paul and Gossi there one day soon too. So postmagic.com, everything everywhere at postmagic. As far as me personally, VinceWilsonMagic.com or magicandmurder.com. I recently combined both websites. They go to the same place now. Yeah, Magic and Murder, where I do my murder mystery shows, seances, magic shows, everything like that, right there. So if you want to find out more about me, you can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I have all that jazz. And I have my own website, which you should be signing up for and hiring me at some point in the future. And I also have a coffee link. If you think what I said was awesome, you can go to coffee, which is ko-fi.com/Pose Magic, and help Pose Magic out, and Vince Wilson as well, by extension to some degree, because you keep that business in business. Buy me a cup of coffee. I also like Danishes. So, and, coffee is expensive. I like to go to Starbucks. It's like $5 a cup. It's going to cost you $20 to go eat and drink there. Just let you know. That's it. That's where I am right now.
Well, and someday, I promise, someday I want to have you back and spend an entire show talking about H.H. Holmes. I think that is one of the underexplored
Absolutely.
pieces of American history, and I keep hearing about this movie based on the Eric Larson book. Was it Devil in White City? Apparently,
Right.
is it Leonardo DiCaprio?
The audiobook is good too.
I've read the book, and it's an amazing book, Devil in White City. But I keep hearing about this movie. Did DiCaprio make the movie or somebody? I mean, it's
been development hell for years.
they've been talking about it forever, and I really think that we need that is a movie that needs to be made. I mean, it is Eric Larson if you haven't read any of Eric Larson's books, they're very, very good. He has the Titanic one, he has the Nazi Germany one, and he has the Devil in White City. So Paul, where can people find more information about Paul? You've released a lot of products to the magic community.
Yeah, I have. PaulPrater.com. It's all up there. My Facebook is PaulPrater.com. My Instagram is PaulPrater.com. My Twitter is PaulPrater.com. It's all the same.
That's it. Nothing. So what's in the works? I was lucky enough to see a preview copy of your last book, and I borrowed a routine out of it, and I did it for quite a while on Hanusan. So Bill Barkley says that it's currently set to be a miniseries produced by Scorsese.
Oh, nice.
There we go. I'll take that. Devil in White City by Scorsese. Yeah. I will take that. For sure. So what's coming up, Paul? Your book. It starts with an M, and I was going to bring it out, but I have enough shit to.
Maleficent.
I was lucky enough to see a preview copy of that and go through that. And I borrowed a routine I based a routine on Hanusan out of that. And I did that for quite a while. There you go, Vince. Thanks. So what is coming up? What is coming up?
Well, so before all of this COVID-19 stuff started, Sarah and I, who I think she's hiding out. I kept telling her to get on camera, but she wouldn't.
She's peeked. I've seen her walk past.
Well, yeah, and she was just off camera and kept flashing me, which is why I kept looking to the side.
You're a lucky man, Prater. You're a lucky man.
I know. I agree. We were supposed to do a show here in North Little Rock that was going to start in March and be monthly at first. So maybe that'll pick up. Ghost tours, I plan on being in 5 cities. Who knows? I'm still going full speed ahead, and we'll see what happens with COVID with that. But what's next for me, honestly, as much as I hate to say it, I'm building the law firm back up and working law for the time being, but I miss performing. I want to be out there performing.
Yep.
That's what I want to do. And I want us to get back on tour. That's what I want.
Well, it's going to happen. It's gotta happen. I mean, or I'm going to jump off a bridge.
I felt the same way.
There's very few people that I think that I'd want to go out and travel that many hours in a car with, and Paul is one of the few. I think we would have a blast because we share so many we share so many things. Sarah.
You're being called, Sarah. She's like, I don't have any makeup on. That's her response, Paul. She doesn't have any makeup on.
All right. Well, someday I have a story where my wife's response was, well. So I saw Sarah got a new tattoo.
She did get a new tattoo. Yeah.
I got two new ones yesterday. So
she's still walking off. Paul.
All right. So
She says I'm here. She's just off camera. She can hear you.
Well, I think the world of Sarah. You're a lucky dude, Prater. She's a great one. Um,
I agree.
we
I agree.
we will absolutely. There will be a Black Magic 2020 tour, and you know what? What's funny, Paul? I don't know if you know this. Vince had reservations. He had a house rented, and he had flight. He was coming to New Orleans to watch our Always shows.
I know. We chatted about it. I know.
So that was my friends Greg and Vince that booked the shows for us at the Always. I love them. They're two of my favorite people, and I just want to give them a shout out. And we've talked a little bit about October, and I know October is going to be a busy month for you guys. So I think that'll just be mystery collection shows down there that week. But we will be back. We will Black Magic 2020, maybe 2021, but it will happen.
2021.
It will happen. We're halfway there. I mean, in a couple of weeks, we're halfway through 2020, so we can hold our breath and move forward. So
I was real excited too, though. I was super pumped about the idea. I like what you said. It was a drinking tour with some magic shows.
yeah, right. That's I don't know. I won't beat up on this. I am the luckiest kid in the world. I have the most amazing group of friends. You two are part of it. And I get to go around the country, and I get to go around the world, and I get to share stories, and I get to talk about my grandma Isla, and I get to talk about my imaginary friend when I was a kid named Yehudi, and I get to tell stories about the great Ludini from Fort Collins, Colorado, and I get to tell stories about my friend Bill Gurman, and I get to tell all of these amazing stories with people that are awesome, and you guys have been a big part of it. This you guys have absolutely, and I close every show with this. And you guys have both heard me say it. You guys have been part of making a little boy's dream come true. This is all I ever wanted to do when I was a kid was be Bill Hicks. That's all I wanted to do. Be George Carlin or Bill Hicks, and add a little bit to people's lives that made them forget about their shitty jobs and their shitty bills and their shitty insurance and their shitty kids, their shitty wife. I just wanted people to remember that that there's still some awesome things. That's all I wanted was Bill Hicks. That's what I wanted to be when I was a kid. So a couple more plugs real quick, and then we'll let everybody go. Remember, this Friday, it's a different time and date. This Friday is Dacre Stoker, and that's a pretty big deal. I mean, that's pretty big to me. I'm really excited. So and then no show on Father's Day weekend, and then Adam Zimmerly on June 26th, the owner of the Black Monarch. We're going to be announcing the Black Monarch Mystery Collection weekend dates that day. We had it originally set at 30 people. Because the state of Colorado has limited things, we're going to limit it to 14 people. So it's been cut in half. So those are going to fill up. I'm certain they're going to fill up really quick. 4th of July weekend, no show on the 5th because it's also my birthday weekend. July 12th, I'm working on a guest. I've got a couple people in mind. I've got a couple offers out. If you have somebody you think that would want to be on there, and that's another thing I'm going to ask of you two. If there's somebody you think that would like to come on, hey Sarah, what's up?
She stole my shot. Did you see that? She stole my shot.
She won't come on and talk to us, but she'll steal your booze.
Sit down and be on the camera.
I don't even have my eyebrows on.
Oh, that's so the July 12th. I'm still waiting. I've sent in an offer to a couple guys, and we'll see who comes back. July 19th is Kim Mosier and Jen Taylor that is the biggest mouse I've ever seen. From the Booze and Bourbon podcast. Check them out. They're very fun. I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm going to send them a box of Tower 56 whiskey this next week so that we can drink stuff from Tower 56 while I'm on their show. And then July 26th, Sunday, July 26th is Brian Kane, the high priest of the Alexandrian tradition. Check out the Mystery Collection on Facebook and my Patreon page for some curated experiences that are just one of a kind. One of them is to sit next to me and get drunk on a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle and interview and talk shit with my friends. Next week we'll be drawing for one of these books. Vince, last words.
We talked about it way too much. So we're going to say we're not going to have Zeke on the show now. Just reel it back a little bit. His ego is so inflated probably right now. So we're going to just reel that back in a little bit. Zeke's not going to be on the show because we already covered everything there is to say.
So when I was a kid, and Zeke and I had this conversation this week, when I was a kid, and Paul, you and I have had this conversation. When I was a kid, I recorded a rap tape. And it was me and two buddies. And we had 4 songs. We had 2 songs on each side. And our band name was Homeboys at Home. And I talked to Zeke about this week, and he actually performed at his high school with his rap group. He had a rap group, and oh my God, I wish I could remember the name, but it was a Z. It had a Z in it, right? And Paul, we talked about getting Post Malone involved in this, right? Trying to get, but Paul has volunteered to be one of the Homeboys at Home. So maybe someday the Homeboys at Home will come back, and it will be Zeke Powers, Vince Wilson, Paul Prater, and Paul Knopfsinger. So Paul Prater, last words.
I just love you guys and thank you for doing this. I've had a great time, and you've given me a good excuse to get drunk on a Sunday afternoon.
Well, I get to do it every Sunday, so welcome to my world. So, oh, there you go.
Yeah.
All right, Sarah, last words. Let me see your new tattoo. Let me see the new one.
It's actually still covered up right now.
Okay.
So it looks like a mess because it's covered.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
my tattoo artist, he uses this stuff called second skin, which is really awesome.
Yep.
And so you wear it for almost a week after you get your tattoo.
Okay.
And it holds in like all the ooze and stuff. So right now it just looks like a blur.
Well, I saw the picture of it. I saw the picture on the Facebook after it was done. It's very nice. Very nice.
Thank you. It's really cool. But yeah, this stuff, seriously, you should ask for it next time you get a tattoo. Your tattoo artist, I'm sure, can order it, but you keep it on for a week. And when you take it off in the shower, because otherwise it kind of like pulls your skin. Because I mean, you can't even feel it on there. It's like, it's so, like, it's great. It doesn't peel off. It doesn't leave you with weird sticky stuff on you.
Yeah.
So you take it off in the shower, and your tattoo is healed when you take it off. It's great. There's no scabbing or anything. It's so convenient.
Well, I got two new tattoos yesterday, and
Oh, wow.
I got I don't know if I'll show you. I'll show you. Let's see if I can show you real quick. I got
so we can focus on you, Paul.
well, I'll get in there now. So I got have you watched The Watchmen? Do you know about the show The Watchmen, the comic book? I got the Dr. Manhattan logo right here. And then
Oh yeah.
one of my first tattoos, I was working at a bank, and they had specifically in their code of conduct and their code, their book, their employee manual, no visible tattoos. Growing up, Black Flag, the band Black Flag was a huge deal to me. Henry Rollins, Greg Ginn, Des Cadena, a big deal to me. And so one of my first tattoos I got when I graduated from college was I got the Black Flag logo, but I got it hidden kind of under my ankle to where nobody could see it. So I decided to go ahead and get it next to the ghost here to where it's a little bit more visible. So, and again, if I can raise $1,000 by my birthday, July 2nd, for the WD French, I will get the Wilbur French, the WD French brand. I will get it right there. So Sarah, any last words for people? What do you have to say to the world? We've got about I'm averaging about 1,500 viewers per week. So what do you have to say to the world? You got any good jokes?
Look like this. That's what I want to say. I usually have eyebrows on. My eyebrows are like super. When you're a redhead, you have to improvise everything. So don't think I always look like this. That's all I have to say.
Well, Sarah, I hope I get to see I hope I get a chance to see you out here in Colorado. Come out and see us. Our good friend, it looks like our good friend Aiden is going to be back at the Stanley Hotel sometime this summer. So if you guys can come out this summer, you have a place to stay, and we're only about 40 minutes away. We've got some of the best breweries, and to all my friends out there that want to come visit Colorado, remember, marijuana is legal in Colorado. So I guess my parting words to everybody are I check out the Facebook page and the Patreon page. I've had a few complaints on my personal page about talking about what's going on in the world. And this is the most political I'm going to be. Human decency is not political. It's about just being a good fucking person. And what's going on in our world now has nothing to do with politics. It's about being a decent person and teaching your kids to be decent people and teaching other people to be decent people. So I'm going to log off Facebook. If you two would stay on for a second, I'm gonna figure out how to do this so I don't screw it up. So everybody, I appreciate you. Next week, this Friday, Dacre Stoker. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Listen to Bill Hicks. I love you. Thanks.